1959 began as a year of challenge. It stands now as a year of consolidation, a year of steady progress and achievement. The Federation of Malaya has thrived on the tests and trials of her newly won sovereignty and has attained a degree of stability and soundness that has earned the admiration of all. Throughout 1959, the task of nation building has gone forward with renewed vigour. The symbol of our unity and nationhood, His Majesty the Young Persekutuan Agong, is greeted with demonstrations of loyalty and affection as he goes out to meet his people. The royal tour of Selangor completed His Majesty's visits to all the states in the Federation. On their first overseas visit to Brunei, their Majesties were accorded a most enthusiastic welcome. The visit was specially memorable. Behind it is a long history of good neighbourly relations going back some 500 years. Malaya has been fortunate in her Prime Minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman Putra Al-Hajj. Inspired with a great love for Malaya and dedicated to the concept of national unity, he has guided the nation through the first 2 anxious years of independence in a manner that stamps him as one of Asia's most enlightened leaders. A simple man who combines wisdom with tolerance, dignity with approachability, the Tunku worked tirelessly for stability and harmony at home, friendship and understanding abroad. His goodwill visit to the Philippines early in January made more friends for Malaya and helped to revive racial ties of kinship with that country. The visit was indeed a triumph of statesmanship, for it was here that the Tunku initiated plans for closer collaboration between the countries of Southeast Asia through the formation of an economic and cultural pool which will encourage mutual action in regional interests. Soon after his return, the Tunku announced his resignation so that he could devote his full time and efforts to the elections. For the next 6 months, he was to tramp the country, to be with the people, to preach the gospel of racial harmony, and to carry his message of peace, prosperity and justice. In April, Tun Abdul Razak took over the reins of government to become the second Prime Minister since independence. Dedicated to the same concept of unity, he carried out his duties with a skill and competence that won the nation's respect. But the overall policy of the government remained unchanged. In the emergency field, we saw in 1959 the result of years of steady work, military pressure and civil cooperation. 5 more states were completely cleared of communist terrorists and declared white. Normal conditions prevail in 80% of the country. The end of the emergency, which has drained our wealth and our strength for 11 long years, is now clearly in sight. Malaya has taken the initiative to create wider cooperation in Southeast Asia. In his first official visit as Prime Minister, Tun Abdul Razak led a mission to Thailand, our nearest neighbour. In an atmosphere of complete accord, agreement was reached on the question of the maintenance of peace on the border. The immediate outcome of the visit was a top-level meeting of military leaders in Kuala Lumpur to discuss joint operations that will put an end to the 700-odd terrorists on our northern border. 1959 has been spent mainly in building up the organizational structure and supply services needed to make our armed forces fully self-supporting. Malaya is building up her forces for peace. 8 infantry battalions and their supporting units, a small navy of 14 ships, a smaller air force of 11 planes. The foundations have been laid, and from these small beginnings, an exciting future stretches ahead. The volunteer units have been absorbed into the Territorial Army, a second line to the regular army. Work began on the military satellite town at Sungai Besi, planned to include the permanent home of the Federation Military College. For a second year, the promise has been kept. A place for every child of school-going age in the school of the parents' choice. 1.25 million students receive tuition in 5,423 schools, a record so far. Teacher training has kept in step too. The Penang Teachers Training College, the best of its kind in Southeast Asia, was opened in May. It will add another 150 teachers for the lower secondary forms to the 300 turned out by Kirby and Brinsford Lodge in the United Kingdom. More rural trade schools have been opened, bringing greater skills and a better life to our youths in the kampongs. The Language Institute, one of the capital's most striking landmarks, was opened in 1959. Here, under expert tutelage, language teachers receive training. June the 18th, a Malayan dream comes true. His Majesty formally opened the Federal Division of the University of Malaya. He promised the government's full support and urged the division to orientate its policy to local needs, especially towards the development of the national language. Besides engineering, the faculties of arts and science were established. Soon to be opened, the Faculty of Agriculture. In the economic field, the sign was not only business as before, but bigger and better business. Our industrial development policy, aimed at encouraging both local and foreign private enterprise, has produced spectacular results. During 1959, the necessary climate for industrial progress was established. There is protection for foreign capital investments, exemption or partial exemption from import duty on materials imported for manufacturing purposes, the anti-dumping law which protects local enterprises, tariff protection, the Pioneer Industries Ordinance which grants income tax relief for up to 5 years, and lastly, there is the Industrial Development Finance Corporation which will issue loans approved for industrial development projects. These measures brought a response that was most encouraging. More than $100 million was invested during the year. Factories are springing up in Petaling Jaya, Johor Bahru and Butterworth. Malaya is rapidly diversifying her economy. Secondary industries are solving the urgent problem of unemployment. The lifeblood of a modern economy flows through its banking system. The Bank Negara, opened by His Majesty, symbolizes a new era in the Federation's financial and banking system, as it represents our will to manage our own financial affairs and assume our own financial responsibilities. The establishment of a number of new foreign commercial banks reflects the increase in Malaya's external trade and is proof of overseas confidence in our future. Rubber, Malaya's #1 export, had a very buoyant year. Production reached an all-time high. We are now the world's greatest producer. Despite a vast replanting program involving 1.25 million acres, we are still not able to meet world demand, resulting in the highest price for natural rubber for the last 4 years. 1959 brought the silver lining to the dark clouds which have loomed on the tin horizon since Merdeka. Prices improved and the export quota went up. Thousands of workers laid off since the tin recession returned to their jobs as more and more mines were reopened. A new industry has appeared on the Malayan scene. The Tourist Promotion Bureau, set up in 1959, has paved the way for the visitor industry, which, as an invisible export, will not only earn us foreign exchange, but will tell the world about Malaya. Top priority has wisely been given to improving and reconstructing the economy and way of life of the rural areas, where more than 60% of our total population live. Rural development holds the key to the future. Better techniques in agriculture and fishing have boosted productivity. The government is determined to bridge the gap between the urban dweller and the 3.5 million people in the rural areas. To ensure that they receive the full rewards of their labour, more cooperative processing, marketing and supply societies were established. Financial aid in the form of loans from the Apex Bank and banking unions are continuing to battle the problem of indebtedness which has plagued our villagers for so long. Semangat baru, a new spirit pervades the land. Community development projects have spread. Self-help is now the watchword. Among the amenities which have been provided for the rural population are new roads in areas once served only by tracks. Travelling post offices on wheels and in boats. Telephone kiosks have been installed in outlying areas. Electricity is becoming a part of everyday life in a great many more kampongs. All these are combining to make life more comfortable and worthwhile. Mobile clinics, dental and medical, bring health facilities to the very doorsteps of the people. No effort was spared to raise living standards and the health and welfare of our kampong dwellers. In 1959, the government stepped up its Back to the Land campaign. The pioneers of Ayar Lanas have blazed the trail. Close on their heels are those in Bilut Valley. So far, 20 projects involving 50,000 acres and some 5,000 families have been put into operation. Planned settlement has now become a part of Malayan progress. Each year, at least 10,000 new houses are needed to keep up with the country's fast-expanding population. Practical, low-cost housing, as in Kampong Majidi Baru and elsewhere, indicate the government's determination to tackle the acute housing problem. Among the many distinguished visitors who came to our shores in 1959 was the Prime Minister of Indonesia, Dr. Juanda. He came not just as a visitor, but as a brother, visiting his own brother's home. The Treaty of Friendship signed during this visit made special provision for the development of a common language, a step that will further strengthen the ties of history, race and culture that have existed for so long between our two countries. On the departure of one relative, we welcomed another, His Highness the Sultan of Brunei. We reciprocate fully the spirit in which the $100 million Brunei loan was made. A miniature Colombo plan exists between our two peoples, and what aid or help is in our power to give is all Brunei's for the asking. Following his election victory, the first Prime Minister of the State of Singapore, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, visited the capital for talks with Federation leaders on matters of mutual interest and internal security. In his short visit to Malaya, the Secretary-General of the United Nations, Mr. Dag Hammarskjöld, singled out the Federation as a nation inspired by the ideals of the United Nations Charter. 1959 was the year of decision. The choice was with us again. The first parliamentary elections marked a significant milestone in our political development. Under the new constitution, the old legislature was to be replaced by a fully elected House of 104 representatives. Campaigning, electioneering, and then the voting. We demonstrated that we do not pay lip service to democracy, we live it. Polling day on August the 19th saw the citizens of Malaya turning out in force to do their duty, conscious of the vital issues at stake. 73.3% of the total electorate of 2 1/3 million cast their votes. The result was another clear victory for the Alliance, which captured 74 of the 104 seats in the new parliament. For Tunku Abdul Rahman, it was a personal triumph. The elections over, His Majesty the Young Di-Pertuan Agong summoned the Tunku as leader of the majority party to form a new government. We, the people of Malaya, have chosen. The alliance government under the leadership of Tunku Abdul Rahman will now decide the policies and guide the destiny of the nation for the next 5 years. The new cabinet was much the same team as before. On resuming office as Prime Minister, the Tunku announced he would personally take charge of community development and that the government would accelerate its plans to improve the rural areas and the welfare of the rural population, whose needs are great and urgent. These are the men, his colleagues, who will help him fulfill his pledge to work towards national unity with justice for all. The opening of our first Parliament on September the 12th was the final step in the evolution of a fully representative government in Malaya. On this historic day, our Charter of Rights and Liberties finally came into operation. His Majesty called on all members to approach their deliberations in the highest spirit of service to our nation. Although Malaya is one of the youngest members of the United Nations, her prestige is high and she is listened to with respect and admiration. History was made at the 14th plenary session when the Federation, on her own initiative, sponsored a resolution condemning aggression and the violation of the human rights of the Tibetan people. The 6th Film Festival held in Malaya brought a deluge of gorgeous film stars from 7 Asian countries. Never had Kuala Lumpur seen such a variety of beauty and glamour. The Best Film of the Year award went to the Shaw's Hong Kong production, The Kingdom and the Beauty. It took the coveted Golden Gong. Once again, the Malayan Film Unit scored top honours for the Best Documentary of the Year and another for Best Planning. It was an unforgettable week of gaiety and happiness, highlighted by the aura of youth and beauty gathered together from so many lands. In sports, hundreds of youths from neighbouring Asian countries were in Kuala Lumpur to take part in the Junior Asian Soccer Tournament, the first ever to be held. In the thrill-packed final between Malaya and Korea, a dramatic last-minute goal robbed Malaya of certain victory and gave the Korean team the well-earned honour of taking home the Tunku Abdul Rahman Cup. At the 10th World Jamboree in the Philippines, a large contingent of Malayan scouts found themselves in the role of goodwill ambassadors. 12,000 scouts from 70 countries came for this jamboree, whose theme, Building Tomorrow Today, epitomizes the great objectives of the scouting movement. This year, Radio Malaya began its independent career as the voice of the Federation. Signs of our progress and achievements are to be seen everywhere. Jambatan Kota, the first double-decker and the longest bridge. The Penang ferry service, now completely streamlined. 2 modern terminals and 5 new vessels have shortened crossing time and made travel more comfortable. The $12 million microwave trunk system heralds a new era in our telecommunications service, the best in Southeast Asia. Now hundreds of calls can be made simultaneously and direct long-distance dialing will soon be no problem. Mpangan Aya, a shining example of material progress. This scheme, the largest undertaken by the PWD, will provide the capital with enough water for its growing needs. The $18 million Malacca Power Station, another notable achievement. Improved supplies are now available over a wider area in rural Malacca, Negeri Sembilan and northern Johor. In the field of religious education, the first 17 graduates of the Muslim College in Klang received certificates at a passing out ceremony. The Anti-Malarial Conference, sponsored by the World Health Organization. A pilot scheme will pave the way for total eradication of malaria in this country. The Cooperative College in Petaling Jaya has played a leading part in turning out men and women to become the spearhead in the battle against rural poverty and exploitation. Extensions were made to the college and facilities expanded. A start was made on the $5 million hospital in Kuala Lumpur, which when completed will be one of the finest and best equipped in the East. The federal capital reflects the mood of the Malayan nation. There is a feeling of impetus and progress. The keynote through 1959 was expansion. We have a widening economy, a higher standard of living. There is stability and peace, harmony at home, a fund of goodwill abroad. The Federation of Malaya can look back with pride on a year of consolidation and steady progress.